Climate change is one of the most pressing challenges our world faces these days. We've got a lot of challenges on board at the moment. We've got economic crises in many countries, high unemployment, development pressures. We've got plenty of things going on. But climate change is basically a time bomb that is ticking and can actually disrupt our economic, our social well-being, and all development prospects. So it's something we need to address urgently. What we see is, looking forward, if we don't change our policies now, if we don't put in place effective climate policies, we will have 50% more greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. We'll be going towards a world that by the end of the century will be 3 to 6 degrees warmer on average compared to pre-industrial levels. And governments have already committed to keeping temperature increase to only 2 degrees Celsius increase. So we're not on track for that. The implications are enormous in terms of droughts, in terms of floods, in terms of storms, and that would have real human consequences. So we need to look at how to put in place climate policies, how to do it quickly, across a broad range of countries in different circumstances. And one of the things that's critical is keeping the costs of climate policies reasonable, not going too expensive, because the public and government purses won't be able to afford it. So we're really looking at how to put in place effective climate policies that are also least cost. Well, one of the things we're doing is looking at what is the policy mix, the mix of different policy instruments that can help to achieve this, can help to achieve effective action on climate change. And what we've seen looking across experiences in a lot of different countries is that there's a key role for pricing. So what does this mean? This means putting a price on carbon emissions, for example, through energy taxes. It means putting in place cap and trade schemes. And one of the fundamental things it means is removing fossil fuel subsidies. We know that there are subsidies around the world now which are supporting the production, the exploration of fossil fuels. They're supporting consumption of fossil fuels. In emerging and developing countries, our colleagues at the International Energy Agency find that there's fossil fuel subsidies of about $544 billion per year. In OECD countries, they amount to about $55 to $90 billion per year. And these are basically working in the opposite direction of a carbon tax. They're helping to support greenhouse gas emissions. They're encouraging them. So we need to remove those. We need to put in place carbon taxes and prices. But we also need a range of other policy instruments. We need standards and regulations, for example, energy efficiency standards in buildings. We need a lot of information provision and labeling, for example, energy efficiency labeling on washing machines or on dishwashers, so that people know which of these can actually save the money by reducing their electricity bills and also be better in terms of reducing emissions. And there's a lot of other policies we also need. We need governments to invest more and private sector to invest more in research and development and fundamental innovation to help come up with technological solutions to help address climate change as well. And certainly one of the things we need, given that climate change is a global problem, is to find better ways of cooperating between countries, sharing technologies, ensuring finance is flowing to help support action around the world. I think one of the most important messages is the urgency with which we need to act. A lot of people look at environmental challenges, they look at climate change and they think, yeah, the real problem is going to be down in the next generation. It's going to be 10, 20, 30 years from now. We have time, we can wait and take action later. And the answer is we actually can't. What we're building today in terms of infrastructure, the energy infrastructure, transport infrastructure, buildings, we're locking in for decades to come the emissions from that infrastructure. So we have to make the right decisions now or have locked in climate change and carbon emissions for decades to come. We also see that the costs go up if you wait. If you take action now, you can do it fairly cheaply, you can do it in an affordable way. If you wait 10 or 20 years, we'll have to make much more dramatic changes to our lifestyles, to what we're doing in terms of energy and transport, and that's going to cost us a lot of money. So it's better to act now, to act early, rather than acting late. So we have an urgency in terms of acting. One of the things I think is important, and it's often quite difficult to get to in terms of the policy instruments, is how to promote a sense of responsibility amongst individuals, individual consumers, individual actors, and that's something that we're also starting to look at. How can we help affect individual behavior, consumer behavior, both provide the right incentives, but also, almost more importantly, the right information so people can make choices individually which can help shift this. So that's something that I think needs a lot more attention.